I used to be pretty indifferent on the immigration situation. Naively, I'll admit. Mainly because I really like the Hispanic culture. I spent a lot of time. I lived in Southern California. I lived in South Florida. So I've had a lot of interaction with the Hispanic culture. And I like the Hispanic culture. I like their values. They're very family oriented, mostly Christian, Catholic, extremely hardworking. And they weren't just hardworking. They were talented. They had great instinct, good intuition. I ran restaurants for a long time, and I had majority of my kitchen staff were Hispanic, and it wasn't because they got paid less than the white people or anything like it. It had nothing to do with wages. They were more talented, harder working. I would have kids that went to culinary school and had the fancy degree and all that stuff, and they would come to work, and they didn't have the instinct, they didn't have the talent that a lot of the Hispanics did. And that's why a majority of the kitchen staff were made up, Mexicans, Guatemalans, even El Salvador. So they're super talented. I know that one of the big arguments is, we can just pay them less. That's why they want to open the borders, and all these big corporations can pay them less. And that is part of the issue. That the white Americans don't want to do the work that the Hispanics are doing. And in some instances, that's probably right. Some of the agriculture stuff, a lot of these housekeeping companies, hotels, stuff like that. But in my experiences, in restaurant kitchens, and these were more refined kitchens. These weren't just throwing a burger on the grill. These are fine dining restaurants. And, they were so talented, and they're so close to their family that, if one of them couldn't work that night or whatever, they would just send in their cousin or their brother who had never stepped foot in this particular restaurant. And you'd give them 20 or 30 minutes of kind of what the menu was all about and how to set up their station and their expectations. And they could pull it off. It was really unbelievable. Where if we had an American white guy with a little ego and all that, it would take him weeks to train them and get them prepared for a busy restaurant, night at a busy restaurant to do it the right way. So I really have a fondness for the Hispanic culture. So I was really indifferent about the immigration thing. I'm a pretty libertarian, but I am a conservative. But to watch what is happening now on the southern border and what the Democrats have done, basically what they do is they play on that naivete of the American people. Unless you live in one of these border states, even specifically the border towns, the counties and cities down along the border, you don't really have an idea of the impact of immigration on the southern border. So, of course, the coastal elite liberals who have never been to one of these border towns have no idea anything about the people come across, the amount of people, the conditions of some of these reception centers and these holding centers. All they do is say, well, we're nice people, so we want everybody to be able to come into the United States, which is absurd. But it's because they don't have an understanding of what it's all about. And unfortunately, the Democrat leadership, in the Democrat Party, have that same ideology. They don't have an understanding of what it's all about. So we see things like what we have going on now, where, the border wall was such a polarizing issue that instead of working out, if you want to stop construction on it or whatever, the Biden administration has the authority to do that. But instead of working out a plan to get to where you want to go without creating a humanitarian crisis, they just pull the plug on it and they wing it, and damn the consequences of our actions. So you get what we have now on the southern border, and they won't even let the media down there to document what's going on. So you have people like Project Veritas and a couple other independent news organizations that are going down there and having to like sneak around to try and document what's going on to show the American people. That facility in Donna, Texas, the immigration facility, the maximum capacity of that place is 250 people. Right now they have over 4,000 people in that facility. You know, and you wouldn't know about that if you were just watching the regular media. And it's the media's job to go down there and hold the politicians that are creating this problem accountable. Because if the American people honestly knew what was going on, they'd be raising hell. But Biden just says, nope, we're not going to allow the media down there until, he said it in his press conference the other day. We're not letting any media down there until we can fix it. You know, that's not okay. That's not an okay answer. If we had a somewhat unbiased media, they would hold him accountable for that. In that moment, when he said that, somebody in that press room should have stood up and said, no, President Biden, that is unacceptable. That you're waiting until it's all cleaned up to allow us to show the American people, you know, what's going on down there. Basically, what you have is the cartels, the drug cartels in Mexico, are running the situation at the southern border. What they do is, you know, because if you show up with a kid, basically they let you in. You say, oh yeah, this is my niece or nephew, and they say, oh okay, come on in. They give you a, you know, some court date, and could, well, just come back for your court date for your amnesty hearing or whatever they're calling it. So what these cartels do is they rent children to people. So they'll bring a kid in the United States. They'll be able to come with their quote-unquote guardian, which is just somebody that kid's never even met. And then they send the kid back to Mexico to do it all over again with another person. And, you know, if you and I know about this, obviously the Biden administration knows about this. You know, the Border Patrol has been sounding the alarm to Biden and company since day one. Like, hey, you can't just stop this border wall construction. You can't just get rid of the Remain in Mexico policy. You know, and Trump, say what you want about him, but he worked out a great deal with Mexico. You know, we have a lot of leverage over them. We do a lot of trade with them. And part of one of those trade agreements was, you know, we'll give you a discount on such and such tariff if in Mexico you hold people looking for amnesty to get in the United States. We'll hold them in Mexico until they can run through our court process. And Mexico said, okay, we'll do that. So Biden just did away with it. You know, now they're doing catch and release. Show up, get a court date, head on into the country. I also saw that Border Patrol estimates that we only catch about 28% of people that are coming across the border. So that means 72% of people are coming in this country. They're not even documented in these numbers, these outrageous numbers that we're hearing. So you have these facilities that are totally overran. You know, the kids in cages situation. And the liberals, they tug the heartstrings of the American people by saying, oh, Trump kept the kids in cages. And, you know, it's nonsense. There were Obama's facilities that Obama made. And they're not cages. They're just facilities with chain link fencing. So now they took out the chain link fence and they just have like clear plastic dividers. They're the same exact thing. So these facilities are overrun and we're only catching 30%. Only 30% are coming in through these facilities. The other 70% are just crossing the border and coming in to God knows where. Now, once these people are in these facilities for a few days or a week or whatever till they can work out some sort of paperwork, then they have no idea what to do with them. So they're sending them on charter buses, and there's video of this. They're loading them up on charter buses and just dropping them off in cities across the country. They're not just staying in like Laredo, Texas or San Antonio. They're bringing them to Oklahoma and, you know, Missouri and the Carolinas and California and the Dakotas. They have, you know, they work out some deal with some liberal mayor of some liberal city or some liberal governor. You know, Gretchen Whitmer will say, yeah, bring us 10,000, you know, migrants that have come across the border. So they're just flooding the country with these people. And they show up at the border and they're wearing Joe Biden shirts. And, you know, Biden tries to say in his press conference, well, I didn't tell him to come. And they tee it up for him in such a way, saying, oh, well, Joe, because you're such a nice person, people in, you know, these South American countries waited for you to get elected to come in because they knew you would take care of them. That's absurd. You have to show strength as a leader. You can't be manipulated. So now the drug cartels are manipulating Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the rest of the bureaucracy. And what do you think these cartels are? What do you think their main initiative is here? It's getting drugs. It's getting guns. Worst of all, human trafficking. You know, they're sending kids and young women over to be part of the sex trade. But, you know, the liberal constituency, they don't want to hear any of that. All they want to hear about is, oh, it's so nice that Joe Biden gave them tinfoil blankets and there's no chain link anymore. Meanwhile, there's 4,000 people in a facility that seats, or that is supposed to hold 250. This border situation might turn into, this might be the downfall of the Biden administration, and I hope it is, because this can't go on forever. You know, smarter heads are going to have to prevail with this. We can't just keep these facilities at thousands of times their capacity and think everything's going to be okay. But they're creating a new voting block, and part of H.R. 1, the new election reform bill that got through the House, and it's going to see the Senate. I don't think it'll get through. Basically, anyone that has an interaction with the federal government, you go to get a driver's license, you go to get on welfare, you go to whatever. If you have any sort of interaction with the federal government, they're automatically going to register you to vote. So you go to the DMV to get a photo ID, and you're a migrant from Mexico that didn't go through the process, you're an illegal. They give you an ID, a photo ID, and you're registered to vote. So there you go. You let in $6,000 a month. It'll probably be more than that. Times, or $6,000 a week, I'm sorry. Times 4 weeks, that's $24,000 a month. Do the math. In 3 or 4 years, that's a huge voting block. And they know to vote for the liberals. Why do you think they're wearing Joe Biden t-shirts on their way up? You know, they've been trained well. The cartels tell them. Give us $6,000, $10,000. We'll get you into the country. Make sure that you go to get a photo ID so you're going to be registered to vote. You know, the federal government is in cahoots with these cartels. They're involved with this drug trade and this sex trafficking and all this, the federal government. And Trump tried to put a stop to it. So, hopefully, this could be the downfall. If enough media organizations can get down there and cover this honestly, I don't think the American people will be okay seeing footage of the way these people are being treated down there. So, that's my take on the border crisis. Everyone plays it off as racist and all that, and it's not. That's why I started this video by saying how much I really like and respect the Hispanic culture. Incredibly hardworking. They're very family oriented. They really love their family. And, you know, they have a rich culture. And their faith, they're very religious. Most of them are Catholic, so they're a very unique and a very good culture. And I think they add value to the United States of America. But it can't be just you can't just overrun the nation people from South America. And it's not just South Americans getting in. You think these cartels aren't getting Iranians and Syrians and Afghanis and Iraqis? This is how terrorists are getting in. You know what I'm saying? We don't have these big drug cartels on the northern border. That's why you never hear about a Canadian border crisis, because the cartels aren't up there to get the bad guys through. And that's what Trump was saying when he said they're not sending their best. They're absolutely not. The drug cartels are open to the highest bidder, whoever it is. You know what I mean? Could be the next Osama bin Laden. And if they pay the drug cartel 20 grand, yep, here you go. So we'll see how it shakes out, but I'm glad Ted Cruz and guys like that are trying to push the issue. Hopefully they can grow a spine, unlike, you know, the way they have been. The Republican Party is so spineless, and that's why the liberals get away with all this stuff. But hopefully enough American people can raise a fuss to where these Republicans will have to do something about it and hold the Biden administration accountable.